You ever have one of those moments where your whole sense of who you are just snaps in half, right in public? No warning? That's what happened to me at 32,000 feet, somewhere between Zurich and Cape Town, in a world where first class was supposed to protect you from any surprise, any discomfort, any real life. Let me back up a second. Julian Meyer, the guy in the tux at the boarding gate, always first on, never breaking a sweat. My life. Structured, high gloss, predictable as a spreadsheet until the universe yanked back the curtain and threw me right into something I never saw coming. First class is a little kingdom of its own. You know what I mean? You board before anyone else, slide into seat 1A, and they're already pouring you champagne before you even take off your jacket. There's Carl, my favorite attendant, who somehow remembers that I like my pillows cold and my headphones noise canceled before I even say a word. The seat turns into a bed with the press of a button, and the food, let's just say, it's the kind of menu that makes you forget you're hurtling through the sky in a tin can. Most days, I didn't even see the folks shuffling by behind that velvet curtain, the faces, the noise, the barely contained chaos of economy. It wasn't arrogance, just the way things were. But that morning, with the flight delayed and everyone on edge, something was different. I remember sitting in the VIP lounge, watching the headlines flicker across my phone, tuning out the world. By the time they called first class, I barely noticed the small commotion by the gate, just brushed past it and headed to my usual cocoon. Seatbelt clicked, menu in hand, world shut out ready to float above it all like always. Except then, as boarding wound down, the energy shifted. There's this ripple of discomfort, that low-level muttering you get when something's not going according to plan. I glanced up and saw a small, frail black woman, easily in her 80s, walking with a slow, careful step, gripping a metal walker. She wore a white head wrap that looked freshly pressed, and her skirt was the kind of soft cotton that gets softer with age. She wasn't alone. A young blonde flight attendant hovered beside her, offering gentle words I couldn't quite catch. The woman looked around, confused, glancing back at the exit as if considering bolting right back off the plane. And the thing is, I should have just looked away. But something about her, maybe the way her hands shook, maybe the way she hesitated at the sight of row 42, sandwiched between the engine noise and the bathroom, stink, just got to me. I saw her lips tremble as she whispered to the attendant, and it was obvious. She was terrified of making that long trek, terrified of spending the next 12 hours crushed into a seat that barely reclined, with her walker shoved out of reach. And right then, without thinking, I stood up and walked over. "Switch her with me," I told the attendant. She stared, surprised, and maybe a little annoyed. "But sir, that's seat 1A. I just shrugged, peeled off my jacket, and said, "She needs it more than I do." You could feel the shift passengers turning, eyebrows raised, a guy in business class snickering like it was a joke. But I meant it, and I didn't care how it looked. Together, we helped the woman up the aisle. She was quiet, her hand landing on my wrist, her gaze sharp. "You're giving up this seat?" she asked, voice full of disbelief. "It's just a seat," I said, though even then, something about the moment felt bigger. She settled in, her walker secured beside her, the cabin crew already fussing over her with hot tea. I didn't wait for applause, didn't even want IT. I just took my new spot in economy, immediately hit by the chaos, the closeness, the sticky tray table that refused to fold flat. You'd think I'd be bitter, but I wasn't. If anything, I felt grounded, like I was part of the real world again, not floating above it. Hours passed. Every so often I'd glance up the aisle, watching her head, now leaning gently against the window, fast asleep. Someone beside me, a woman, maybe my age, offered me a biscuit. "Most people wouldn't do that," she said quietly. I just shrugged, didn't really think about it. She smiled, and we both sat in the hush of night mode, overhead lights winking out, babies crying, the strange comfort of being one tired body among hundreds. By the time the plane began its slow descent, everyone stirring, stretching, checking phones, I found myself wandering up the aisle. Maybe I just wanted to see if she was okay. Maybe I was hoping for some small sign that what I did mattered. When I peeked into first class, she was awake, sipping water, her back a little straighter now. She caught my eye and smiled her real, knowing smile. "Come," she said, patting the seat beside her. "Let me tell you a story." I hesitated, then sat. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag and placed it gently in my hand. "I'm not just another passenger," she said, voice low but steady. I opened the paper and stopped breathing for a second. There, in faded ink, was the name Dr. Nyota, Elena the humanitarian, the legend. Suddenly, her face made sense. She was the woman from that award show, the one who built clinics in war zones and helped end a civil war in the Congo Basin. My word got tangled up, but she just laughed softly, a sound like warm bread breaking. "You weren't supposed to know," she said. "That's what makes your gesture real." I sat there, stunned, realizing that the woman I'd swapped seats for was someone who had literally changed the world. She reached out, her hand light on mine, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to perform or impress or justify anything. She leaned in, whispering, "Do you know why I was flying economy?" I shook my head. She smiled, a little wistful. "Because I needed to vanish. Too many years of being the face, the voice, the fixer. I just wanted to go home as myself. No titles, no expectations. But my body, it reminded me, I'm not so young anymore." She paused, looking out the window as the sky began to lighten, then turned back. "You gave without knowing, without asking. You reminded me there's still kindness left." She opened a weathered notebook and scribbled something, then tore out a page and handed it to me. "A gift," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Show this card at any of my offices anywhere in the world. I only give out 3 a year. It means if you ever want to do something real, something that matters, I'll fund you. No questions." I stared at the card, my mind racing. Me, the investor who'd only ever built numbers on a screen, suddenly handed a chance to build something that lasted. She squeezed my hand. "You don't have to use it. But if you ever get tired of chasing zeros, come find me." The rest of the flight passed in a blur. As we landed, she insisted I go ahead. "I like watching people walk tall after doing something good," she teased. Stepping off that plane, everything felt sharper, bigger. The world had shifted under my feet. A month later, that card was still in my wallet. I didn't touch it for myself. Instead, I used it to start a program for kids who'd lost parents to cancer like I did at 17. The first grant came from Dr. Elena's foundation, no press, no headlines, just quiet help. When she passed away years later, I found out she'd left a single note in her will about me. "He gave without knowing," and reminded me who I still am. That line stuck with me. So yeah, sometimes giving up your seat puts you exactly where you were meant to be. Sometimes a small act tips the scales in ways you never see coming. But here's what I want to know: where do you draw the line between kindness and self-preservation? Would you have given up that seat, not knowing? What would you do if no one was watching? Let's hear your stories, your opinions, what's right, what's enough, what's too much. Does justice always pay back? Or is it enough just to do good in the dark? Drop your thoughts below. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that kindness counts. And if you made it this far, hit that like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Until next time, stay sharp, stay kind, and maybe, just maybe, give up your seat once in a while. You never know who you'll meet.